Good afternoon, and thanks again for joining us for lunch. We're pleased to be able to bring some focus to implants here at Graph Expo. We've been providing workflow solutions primarily in the production print space since 1986. So that's a very long time. There aren't too many software companies that are over 25 years old. We focused on implants because we see that there's unique needs that you have that are quite different from the commercial print market. And one of them is the diversity of some of your print centers. The fact that we offer web to print is one of the solutions that we offer, but we provide a total enterprise workflow solution that can start with transform, include output management, move to web to print, can include data center transactional jobs and activity, as well as network and publishing activity. And that's something that's unique about RSA, is that we cross all of those boundaries of types of jobs. But the main reason we're here is we're fortunate to have a speaker that's got a great story to tell for you. He's a hands-on person, started initially running a two-color press at a commercial printer, then in 1991 moved to American College as an operator and rose through that organization to the manager of that print center, and in 1999 moved to Villanova as the manager of their print center. So for the past 15 years, he's shepherded tremendous changes within Villanova. As the director of central services, he manages one of the most successful implants in the country, and as Bob mentioned, the first university to offer a web-to-print solution, which they subsequently upgraded to WebCRD, and he'll have a chance to talk to you a little bit about that. But he tells his story a lot better than I do, so I'd like to introduce the Director of Services at Villanova, Mike George.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about our experience with web to print at Villanova. Specifically, Villanova, this is our agenda. We're going to cover just a little bit of background on what Villanova is, what we are, graphic services. We're going to identify some key players that helped us launch our web to print, help us maintain our web to print, look at a little bit of before and after web to print, and then what's next after we launched. So Villanova, if you haven't heard of us, is a private Catholic Augustinian institution. We have about 6,400 students, 2,100 faculty and staff. Our division, we report up to auxiliary services. That basically means we have to cover our costs plus 5%. We have two print centers. One is a production facility, and one supports our web to print, and that's more of a walk-up type print center. We have 13 full-time employees. We do employ some part-time staff, and we had $2.2 million in revenue last year. When I started in 1998, there was about $500,000 in revenue and about 13 full-time employees. Like Bob had mentioned, we did get into web to print back in 2001, late 2001, 2002 when we actually launched it. And back in the days when, before the web was really coming about and had a big impact on print. Right? So you have a web to print system. You have your approved to purchase. You're ready to get started on implementing and actually rolling this thing out. And hopefully, you've done some homework and some pre-planning ahead of time to let people know that this web to print system is coming into play. But basically, you're going to be starting an entirely new business. Okay, this is going to be You're still going to be producing print. You're still going to be doing all the things you do. However, with web, it's a whole new arm of business. And it requires the marketing end of it. It requires workflow. It requires getting work into the shop. It requires customers. But the key thing here right now is the staff. So the staff to back up the web to print is critical. One of the things that perception out there is that web to print is the magic bullet that's going to come in and save me all kinds of time. It's going to save me all kinds of money. It's going to make me turn jobs around quicker. And all that is true. And the technology absolutely comes into play here. However, staffing, you still need those people. And you need people to take ownership of the initiatives. So it kind of started with a vision of how we're going to implement web to print. I kind of worked that, got that going, the vision, and then I started to look at my staff and look at who on my staff would be a key player here to really take ownership of this program. And once you identify that staff member, how's it going to impact their job? And who's going to take in and do their role that they're doing now to help them spend more time on the web to print? They're going to require new skills. Just about every staff member that you have is going to have to learn new skills. Position descriptions. We had to go through and update position descriptions because, you know, a simple copier operator now is responsible for taking jobs from the web, doing pre-flight, looking at pushing them into the workflow, making sure that work is right. So you've kind of collapsed pre-press, if you will, and production and bindery. So that's key. How are you going to alter position descriptions to make sure that you include everything that you're going to need to make sure that web to print is running once it's implemented? Pricing tables. Okay, so we all have pricing tables, making sure that pricing tables are up to date. Paper stocks. If you're tracking paper, at one point you have, paper comes and goes. Compatible substrates with your engines. It's important that those compatible papers are loaded into your web to print system. Requires maintenance of that portal to make sure that that's going on. Deliveries. Okay, so you start opening up the web and you're taking jobs in through the web. We went from 0 web to print jobs to we averaged between 6,000 and 8,000 jobs a month. A lot of those jobs were picked up, which we encourage people. A lot of people want to get out of their office and walk down and pick the job up. But we also have a delivery person that delivers jobs, right? So how are you getting the jobs out to the end user? Fortunately, I have mail services, so it was fairly easy to integrate deliveries with mail services and be able to help use that staff on the mail side to help distribute some of our jobs, because that was a big problem. We were getting the jobs printed, but they were sitting there and getting them out. Delivery acknowledgement. How many of us have rushed to get a job done over the weekend, only get a call Monday morning, I can't find my job? So those tracking of orders now, you're going from tracking maybe 100 jobs a day to tracking 6,000 or 8,000 jobs a day. It's got to be automated. It's got to be robust. The point being here is with the staff, you can't do it alone. You just can't do this alone. You need the people. You need the position descriptions to be accurate, and you need the pay scales to be reflect the position descriptions. The IT side, okay, web to print is not turnkey. Okay, as much as I would like it to be turnkey, it is not. Authentication. You know, back in 2001, we started talking about web to print, we went to the previous vendor and we said, we're going to need LDAP authentication. And they said, well, what's LDAP? Well, now, if you don't have LDAP or you don't have some sort of authentication, your web portal is not going to be successful. We're not going to be able to access it. We are fortunate that our LDAP authentication to log into what we call iPrint is your same user ID and password that you have to log into your email. So it sounds simple, it sounds minor detail, pretty important though, that people don't have to do a single sign or self-register or that it's automatic. The other key player with the key factor in the authentication is at our university, we constantly have people that are leaving and new people are being hired all the time. We have a new freshman class that comes in every September. We have kids that drop out of school. We have kids that study abroad. So that's key, and making sure that I don't have to manually maintain all the authorized users of our web to print. That's automated. So we don't even think about that part. On the IT side, our IT department, they're great and they're award-winning and they're top-notch. Web to print's not one of their priorities. So we had to get into a project plan. It's important you engage them. Get on whatever IT project list that you have within your organization. It's important to get that on there, get documented. Work with your vendor to find out what is the IT support that we're going to need. And they're going to work with you. Certainly, I mean, RSA has worked closely with our IT. I think they know mostly everybody in our IT department. But again, there was limits. IT drew a line and said, you know, we're going to support you to this point. But beyond that, you're going to be on your own. So we needed to engage a IT consultant. Customers, right? So customers, if you don't have the customers to bring the work in, to send the work in, you don't make it easy for them to send work in. It's key to remember, web to print is not about an internal workflow, although that's an added benefit. Web to print is a way to get work into the shop, and it needs to be easy. You have 3 shots at somebody with a web, certainly in our experience. If it doesn't work successfully and satisfy them 3 times, they're off, they're gone. So that initial experience with web to print is critical. The work. What work are these customers that you're targeting? Are you able to do it? This slide here is just kind of a visual about the print center and how each of these kind of departments come into play with your customers, your hardware service team. You know, that's completely separate, making sure that your equipment is up and running when it comes time to produce those clicks. If you don't have the gear back there producing, your web to print's going to die on the vine. If the work is not actually getting done. If you're having service issues now, web to print's not going to solve your service issues that are coming up with your equipment. IT is an ongoing player. There's always IT stuff that's going on. The vendor, making sure you have a vendor that's constantly staying abreast of new operating systems, new file formats, old file formats. All of those things are things that as a printing manager, I can't think about. But surrounding yourself with the best of breed and making sure that you have the people that can help you when you need them is critical. You're going to get questions about security of documents. We recently picked up our law school. It's now part of the web to print. I had to jump through hoops to convince a school full of lawyers that their work is being encrypted and their work is being dumped off the server and it's being scrambled and there's no possible way anybody could hack into that work. Some believe me, some don't. So security is very critical here. By now, if you've been approved to buy web to print, or if you haven't, you need to think, are we going to have a server on our campus, a physical server, which has its benefits, but it also has its drawbacks? Or are we going to have is it going to be hosted? It's been a long time since I shopped for web to print, fortunately, so not too familiar with how this all works. We actually opted to host our server internally. It was kind of a mandate by IT. So not only did you need one, you needed a backup. So when web to print drops, you have something that backs it up. Database maintenance, again, I can't stress enough. Making sure that only authorized users are being allowed to use your web to print software. Also, reporting out of web to print. You know, getting some reports about what it is that your shop is doing, and how much clicks are you doing? How many web to print orders do we get a month? I get a report every month. How many jobs we did through the portal? Very simple to do in our web to print system. File formats, right? We've all had that old Microsoft Word program or publisher that comes in, and we all used to run from publisher files, right? Publisher files are never going away. Students use them all the time. PowerPoints, okay? So making sure that what they see is what they get at the end sounds simple, but it's not. There has to be some sort of interface in there to make assurances that what they actually wanted to print is what they actually got. So one or two shots of, hey, that font changed and it made a logo drop off or move, and and nobody checked the job, and so you get one or two of those and they're off and going. So that's a quality issue there. Developing an internal workflow, right? So our web to print, an added benefit of our web to print system is it has a very robust internal workflow. Not why we purchased web to print. We purchased web to print to get work into the shop and to make sure that we stay current with what's out there. But again, it's important to have a workflow internally set up that's automated, because you're now getting files sent to you via email. If you get 10 or 12 jobs a day, that's going to triple or double or tenfold in a year or two. How are you going to handle that? How's that work going to get done? We have a system set up internally. It's called AutoFlow. AutoFlow connects WebCRD to a micropre or EFI Fiery Command Central station, and then it outputs to the devices. Well, my operators are loading my 4 printers at the end of the day with paper. AutoFlow enables students to submit work. Most of my student jobs are coming between 12 midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. And then they're coming in for an 8:30 class at 8:15, and they want their job. Well, I'm not putting a second shift on to print student work. But we do have a swing shift where my operator, who was 9 to 5, is now 7 to 3, so that she can come in the morning and pull those jobs out, get them tagged, and get them set up so that people can pick them up, so the kids can pick them up on the way to class. So that little workflow internally really has helped with the success of the web to print for us. Print drivers, okay, so how are print drivers going to be handled? It's going to be something you're going to need to know. We work with our IT group again, and new computers that go out have, and part of the corporate, our university image is an iPrint icon. And it has the driver, the Sure PDF driver, already installed onto the PC before it goes out. Again, it sounds minor, but makes it a lot easier for the customer. The work. We all heard about, the sweet spot. What do we do? What do we do well? Let's focus on that. Unfortunately, I don't buy into that theory. When you get into web to print, you're going to be asked to do different things that may not be something you ever thought you would do. So that little $1.25 copy job that comes in at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday and it has to be there by 9:15 on Wednesday, I never thought I'd be doing those jobs. But with AutoFlow, the delivery process that's in place, it's just another job. And that actually, we had one department who constantly sent us these jobs on Fridays, and they needed them by 9:15 every day. So I went and visited with them, and I said, hey, so what's going on? Why am I in a rush on every single job? And she explained it to me. She had a very good rationale, but she also had a bunch of work that she was not sending through iPrint. And I said, well, can we get some of that work? And she said, oh, I didn't know you guys could do that. I thought you only did these types of jobs. So what work will bring you more work? Okay, so think about that. How do you know what's going on inside your organization? We're a fairly small organization, and I've been there a while, but I still don't know everything that goes out. Fortunately, I had 4 kids that go through Villanova, so as a parent, I saw a whole different side of printed material that goes out to parents from the departments that never comes into my shop. Some of the work wasn't even printed at Villanova. It was printed at the local Kinko's or a local printer, and so that it was gave me an opportunity to kind of circle back. A lot of the higher ed, you can join mailing lists for your continuing studies program. You can join mailing lists for your part-time studies. You just go on the web and sign up, and now you're part of that. Some of you that have mail centers. My mail center who runs my outgoing mail, processes my outgoing mail, she's on alert. Anything that comes through with, 5,000 envelopes, okay? Well, what's going on? What's in that envelope? And we'll circle back to the department. WebCRD enabled us to branch out. It's a modular system where we were able to add online stationery ordering. Okay, well, marketing asked us to do that with branding and making sure colors were right and the consistency and everything was good. But what I didn't realize was that it gave me an opportunity to monitor the people that are ordering 5,000 sheets of letterhead and 5,000 envelopes. So my CSR sees that order come through, they're proactively making a phone call and saying, hey, I see you ordered 5,000 letterheads, 5,000 envelopes. You have a mailing going out. Is it something we can help you with? And 9 times out of 10, that call initiates a quote. 7 times out of 10, it actually turns into a job. So looking around and seeing what's going out, what's being printed, and trying to identify areas where we can, actually get more work into the portal, because more work right now just adds to increased productivity with the auto flow, and now it's all about volumes because it's up and running. Promises, I've made promises out there that I couldn't keep. And I'll go out to a department and I'll visit with them and they'll say, well, we do these reports from Banner, which is our information system, and we print them on our local copier and we put it on letterhead and it bounces all over the place and it's not registered and sometimes the copy quality is great. And I said, don't worry about it, WebCRD can do it. iPrint can do it. So I go back to my key player and I say, oh, this is what you got to do. Can you work with this department? Well, it's almost physically impossible to get these reports printed through the web without IT getting involved and doing some sort of programming. And it started out as something simple. Now it's on an IT project list that may not get hit until the spring. So again, went back to the department, I misunderstood the capabilities, we're working towards it, we're gonna try and solve this problem, but it's not something I can flip a switch and do. So I would caution on that. Marketing and branding. Okay, we are a university, we're not a printing company, so we're also not marketers. We do have a marketing major at our university that we worked with the professor there and talked to him about our marketing issues. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna put an intern on it and we're gonna make that a project for an intern. And they came up with a lot of great ideas, right? So we have the best of these future marketing people who wanna learn, and then you have these guys like me who, I don't really know much about marketing. They came up with a brochure that goes out to incoming freshmen early in the summer, so that when they're out looking to buy printers before they come onto campus, we tell them about iPrint and what they're able to do. We're part of the admissions tour, so the prospective students that come through the shop, that come to tour campus, we aligned with admissions to make sure that these prospective students understand what iPrint is and what the print center does. It's a brief 30-second thing. They walk by the print shop and they stop and say, hey, this is really nice. We do a personalized calendar. An academic calendar goes out to all faculty staff. We work with HR, new employees coming in. So they do a new employee orientation every month. And we have a brochure that goes out to new employees, business cards, different things like that. There's a lot of opportunities out there for non-marketing people to market. Work with communications and marketing. I mean, I'm sure they want to see you succeed. They want to make sure that stuff is produced by the implant to assure that branding guidelines are met. One of the things that's it's difficult to do is, before we got into web to print, was figure out what we did. Well, we did a lot of course packs, and we did a lot of coil-bound books, and we did a lot for the university shop, educational material syllabus. What will be done better with web to print? Well, we're implementing web to print and black and white volumes declining. So obviously, whatever that course pack work was that we were doing, or the course syllabus, whatever we were doing is going to go away. Okay, so be careful of implementing a solution for a temporary batch of work. But understanding what work you're doing and being able to ongoing track that work and see where it's coming from. So it's an added benefit of web to print. It enables you to really look at where your work is coming from. and what type of work that you're doing. Track and report. So we report up to the VP of Finance, and I report everything. I do a voluntary annual report, tracks all the data. It tracks everything that my shop does, we do. Number of mailing pieces, number of clicks, how much we charge, how much we pay in salaries, how much our operating expenses are. Just like a regular annual report for a corporation. No one's ever asked me to do it. We do it voluntarily. In that report, there are some failures. There's no question about it. And I think that you can learn from your failures as much as you can learn from the successes. Very important. Once you get that all under your belt, what you're doing, and you're doing it well, you can start to look to expand into new services. So online stationery was not something we looked at when we put iPrint in place. However, because we partnered with RSA, we were able to implement Dynamics, which we termed Nova Docs. Nova Docs is a portal inside iPrint that you're able to click on and order letterheads, envelopes, business cards, note cards, A7 envelopes. There's a whole suite of stuff that you can order in there. Tent cards, a parking pass, a campus map. And we really see that as expanding that. So that's important that we're able to expand upon what we already have in place. Before and after, this is a slide that we take to departments who have this perception that because they use their departmental copier, we have over 230 departmental copiers on our tiny little campus. Departmental copiers are run through IT. They manage them. They have managed print services as well. But 220 copiers for 2,300 faculty and staff, probably half of those are the only ones that actually use the printers, is a lot. It's a lot of capability, a lot of capacity on campus. But the perception on campus is that in some cases it's cheaper to print locally. And although in some cases that may be true, we take this slide out to the departments, and a lot of times because the chargeback on their departmental copier is fragmented in such that they get a lease charge, and then 3 months later they get a click charge that hits their budget. They never really see a statement. They never see an invoice. It's just this copier charge that shows up. They never really take the time to look at the volume and how many copies that actually bought. But we break that down for them. So if you go to print locally, you're going to open the file. You have to select, then you program the driver for two-sided if you want to do two-sided, or staple, which people struggle with. Then you select print, you walk to the copier, and for this particular job, which is 52 originals, and they wanted 45 sets, very common job, they had a cost position of $105.30 without actually including their time. So on that particular device, it might take an hour and 15 minutes to print. Using iPrint, they upload the file, they enter the quantity, they approve the pricing, and the job comes back. It is literally that simple. Even easier are reorders. How are you going to handle reorders, right? So we really push this print on demand so that if you have 30 kids in your class, don't print 30 syllabus, print 20. If you need more, just go into iPrint, click reorder, and hit 5 copies. So again, we're getting back to getting work into the shop. How are we going to get work? It's got to be easy to get work into the shop. Reorders are key for us. We do, there's a document library. Every person on campus that is in iPrint that works at Villanova has a document library that they can store all their printed documents, and we'll store them for a year. So they're able to go in from anywhere they are. They don't have to be on campus, right? So we have a faculty member who's sailing in Hawaii on his sailboat over the summer, and he sent his syllabus in, and he's like sending me a picture attached to the file of, Oahu or something. But again, it's got to be easy for everybody to get the work in, and then figure out how you're going to get the work out. Variable data. So variable data is something on our campus, as pretty much everywhere, right, is really coming about, and we see definitely a surge in variable imaging. Well, we actually upcharge for a click if it's variable. So the cost is probably close to the same because it's a click, right? But because there's some front-end work that has to take place, we do add a little bit of money onto that to just cover some of the tracking that has to take place when you're doing variable data.
I know there's a lot of discussion and questions on the IT side. And that's one of the things that separates an in-plant from most commercial printers, is because you do have an IT department to work with. That's something that we at RSA spend a lot of time and have very strong experts, whether you're in the financial services environment, the insurance, the higher education, high technology, whether it's Amazon or JPMC or Villanova that are customers of RSA, we work with those IT departments. And there's a couple core things that we generally are working with them on. Number one is letting them know that adding this solution does not become a burden on them, that they support the application itself. Your IT department does not support the application. RSA does that. Secondly is integrations. So the most obvious is LDAP or single sign-on, whatever your organization uses. We've done just about every type you can think of. We specialize in that. So we can talk their language, and the first thing we do is get your people involved with mine and talking in their language to give them the answers that they need and the answers that we need to set up the system. Integrations also go further. Mike mentioned they integrate with their wildcard system, the student card. That was critical to their success. In many of your organizations, it might be integrating with your e-procurement system or your ERP system. We do a lot of integrations. And WebCRD, again, because of its design for your environment, is set up where all these integrations are independent plugins to the software. So as the software upgrades, that integration moves along with it. So as an example, Villanova, that wildcard integration, we probably implemented in 2003 or 4. And he's gone from version 3 to 4 all the way up to 9, and we've never touched that integration because of the design of the software. And that's another thing that we talk to your IT about, because they're very concerned about, well, what happens if we change this and now your software doesn't work? And then the final thing is, how are we going to host this solution? So people think of in the cloud, a third party, we have a hosting data center. The majority of implants host it internally as a VM in their data center. A small percentage still have physical servers. That's been a transition over the last 5 years from 90% physical servers to about 10% physical servers. But in the implant marketplace, we find that the number of hosted solutions are generally hosted in your data center as a VM and not hosted externally because of security issues. They want to keep it within your organization. Again, that's something that I have a staff that are experts in that have been delivering these VM implementations for many years. So as you look at solutions, make sure you're looking at vendors that can talk to your IT department, because that's going to be the vital link to make that happen. Once it happens, they're very seldom involved. It's just the upfront.
Better wrap things up. So thanks very much, Mike, for the presentation. If anyone has additional questions, Mike will probably stick around for a few more minutes, and enjoy the rest of Graph Expo, everyone.